Hi, I'm going to give this presentation about how to grow students by teaching them about the growth mindset. So the growth mindset was actually developed by world-renowned psychologist Carol Dweck from Stanford University, who's done a lot of research on achievement, success, and has discovered the powerful idea of mindset. And as a teacher, this is important because we have such varying degrees of students. I often wonder, why are some successful and others failing? This idea of mindset resonated with me. It helps me to understand why some of my students are doing better than others. The growth mindset is the idea that intelligence is not fixed at birth, but people can actually grow through effort. People who have that growth mindset see failure as a learning experience. It doesn't define them. They believe that intelligence can change. So there are two mindsets that Dweck talks about in her book. The first being fixed mindset. This is the belief that intelligence is set, and these people often feel the need to prove themselves constantly. Whereas people with a growth mindset believe you are born with basic qualities, however, you can grow through effort. Let's look at an example of how those two different mindsets might react to the same situation. Say, for instance, you had a day of teaching, you go to graduate school, you sit down, you get your midterm paper back, and you get a C plus on that midterm paper. You walk out to your car and find that you've got a parking ticket, and then you call your best friend to tell her about your rough day. And your best friend just tends to blow it off and seems rather uninterested. A fixed mindset person might say, my life is awful. Life's unfair. I'm stupid. My professor's too hard. I'm so unlucky. Whereas a growth mindseted person would say things like, I need to work harder to bring up my grade. I should have been more careful of where I parked. Maybe my friend also had a bad day, and that's why she seemed to blow me off. It doesn't mean you're not upset about your rough day. It just means that people with a growth mindset don't define themselves by a day like this. They don't give up on life. They, in fact, take this as an opportunity to learn and to work harder. So how does this idea then relate to learning? You know, think about babies. They walk, they fall, they get up. They're not afraid of a challenge. They move forward. They want to learn as much as they can. What then happens? Children then are able to evaluate themselves. When they're able to evaluate themselves, they're afraid of challenges and afraid of not looking smart. Carol Dweck did an interesting study with 4-year-olds. She gave them all puzzles, and she gave them the opportunity to either choose to redo an easier puzzle, or they could choose to try a harder one. Children with a fixed mindset stuck with the safe option. They didn't want to make a mistake and appear dumb. However, children with a growth mindset thought this was a crazy choice. They kept choosing the harder puzzle. They wondered why anyone would want to do the same puzzle over and over. One girl even said, I'm dying to figure out all of the puzzles. Children with the fixed mindset are so focused on making sure they succeed because they believe smart people should always succeed. However, children with a growth mindset want to learn, they want to grow, they want to stretch themselves, and they're not afraid of failing sometimes because they know that that then leads to growth. Carol Dweck then goes in to explain how this can relate to testing and how one test score can be particularly harmful for students. Dweck gives an example of Loretta, who moved to the United States at the age of 5. She went to register for school and was immediately given a placement test. She was placed in a kindergarten class, but not the elitist Eagle class. She was later transferred to that Eagle class, and she stayed with that group until she graduated from high school. However, Loretta never believed she belonged with the Eagles. Who knows the actual reason for the change, but her fixed mindset believed if she were a true Eagle, she would have been one from the very beginning. And I think about how much of this might affect my own students. How many of them believe their intelligence is based on one test they maybe had in elementary school? In another interesting study, Dweck gave 5th graders a cardboard box. She told them there was a test inside that cardboard box that would measure an important school ability. She didn't tell them anything else about the test. Then she asked students questions about the test in the box. She asked them, do you think this test measures how smart you are? Do you think this test measures how smart you'll be when you grow up? Students with the growth mindset said, no way, no test can do that. However, students with a fixed mindset believed strongly that it could measure how smart they are and how smart they'd be when they grew up. They gave that one test the power to define them now and forever. How many of our EOC tests and EOG tests are my fixed-minded students then using to define them for the rest of their lives? It's actually a very scary thought. This also relates to school achievement. How does that affect mindset, or how does mindset actually affect school achievement? Dweck completed a study with students making a transition from elementary to junior high school. Of course, we all know this is a tough transition. Grades are harder, classes are tougher, teachers are stricter, they're moving classes, and they're doing all these changes while their bodies are changing and they're dealing with puberty. When she studied these students making this transition, she found that students with a fixed mindset showed a decrease in grades throughout junior high. However, growth-minded students actually excelled from this new challenging experience. Students with a fixed mindset, when asked to explain their poor grades, explained them with comments like, "I'm so dumb, I suck at math, the teacher's on crack." However, the growth-minded students expressed the work could be challenging, but they responded by working harder, doing what was necessary to be successful. And these fixed-minded students then can develop into what I see in my classroom, my English, 10th grade English classroom, what Carol Dweck calls low effort syndrome. These students saw the transition as a threat. Sometimes students stop working as a way to seek independence from adults, but lots of them also used it as a chance to protect themselves. However, students with a growth mindset, and then students also who were taught the growth mindset, didn't stop trying. In fact, one student even said, "You mean I don't have to be dumb?" They learned that some students learned that it was easier to not try, but once learning the growth mindset, they actually found that their hard work and efforts could pay off. So what do we do now? I love this quote. "My teacher thought I was smarter than I was, so I was." You know, as teachers, we have such a large impact on students' beliefs and mindsets. We can help them develop a growth mindset. Let's think for a minute about students who are behind in school. What do? Lots of times we give them the same material over again. Oftentimes it's dumbed down material with the belief that they can't handle any more than that. And the results are sad. Students repeat the grade and they don't learn any more than they did before. But there are teachers who teach differently, many of them. Dweck highlights one, Marva Collins, who took inner city Chicago kids who had failed and treated them like geniuses. She took second graders from reading in the lowest second grade reader to reading Shakespeare, Poe, Dickinson, Frost. And by getting students to work hard and getting them to believe they could learn, they did. She challenged them. She didn't dumb down the curriculum, but she held high expectations and they succeeded. You know, as teachers, we are told to praise students. We're taught that from our early education courses. However, Dweck explains as teachers, we also have to be careful how we praise students to help them develop that growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset. Dweck completed another powerful study on praise. She gave early adolescents 10 fairly difficult problems from a nonverbal IQ test. They did pretty well, and when they finished, she praised them all. She praised one group for ability. She gave them comments like, "Wow, you got 8 right. That's really good. You must be smart at this." The other group she praised for their effort. She said things like, "Wow, you got 8 right. You must have worked really hard." She praised them for the effort, not that they had a special talent. She then offered both groups of students a challenging new task they could learn from. The ability praised group didn't want to do that task. However, 90% of the growth praised group wanted to try the new challenging task. And then looking at the performances of both groups, the effort praised group showed better and better performance. However, the ability praised group did worse, even when they were given easier problems. A final interesting fact about this study, she told students that they were going to go to other schools and do this similar study, and those students would probably benefit from knowing a little about the problems. And she gave them space to talk about the problems and then a space to write their scores. 40% of the ability praised students actually lied about their scores to make them seem smarter. Wow. Ability praised students afraid to not only take on challenging tasks, but were quick to lie about scores. It makes me think about how I have praised students in the past and how I will be careful to praise for effort versus ability. Praising a student for their intelligence may in fact be a boost right at that moment, but it can really hurt them in the long run. Once things get tough, their motivation's lost. They are scared to appear that they are not smart. These students equate success to being smart and failure and dumb. And this is that fixed mindset that we don't want our students to employ. So how should we praise students? Carol Dweck gives several examples of positive praise. You can say things like, you really studied for your test and your improvement shows it. Or I like the way you tried all kinds of strategies on that math problem until you finally got it. Or even students who worked hard but maybe didn't do well. And I think about our EC students. You might say things like, everyone learns in a different way. Let's keep trying to find the way that works for you. It may take you a little more time to catch on and to be comfortable with this material, but if you keep at it like this, you will be successful. So in conclusion, as teachers, we can't control testing. We can't control curriculum. We can't control how we must grade at the end of a term. However, we can help our students focus more on growth. We can help students understand their intelligence is not set in stone, that with effort and hard work, intelligence can change. If we use praise and effort if we use praise for effort instead of intelligence and ability, then this will be most helpful for students, of course, not only in our class, but most importantly for their future life in showing their success. Thank you so much, and I hope that you've learned a little more about what the growth mindset is. And I encourage you to read Dweck's book and learn even more.